No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. For all those joining us live this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show, the first post-game show of the calendar year 2022. And the Winnipeg Jets, after a 2-week hiatus, picked up right where they left off. Victors again on a Sunday afternoon. This one an entertaining back and forth barn burner of a game versus the Vegas Golden Knights, ending in the overtime period as Kyle Connor, who had 44 goals to lead the Winnipeg Jets in calendar year 2021, snipes his first of 2022 past Laurent Brossoit, giving the Jets the 5-4 victory in what was, gentlemen, a very entertaining back and forth contest between the Winnipeg Jets and the Vegas Golden Knights. With Dave Manouk, with Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel, and we welcome you to tonight's post-game show. It's been a while since the Jets were in action, guys, but we certainly, I think, got our money's worth tonight in what was a very entertaining game between these two teams.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Drew, but I didn't pay to watch the game. But yeah, for the people that were in, I know I'm just bugging you.
You paid for your cable bill unless you're stealing cable from somebody.
Well, I actually didn't. I still owe Shaw a little bit of money, but just kidding. But no, I mean, like the fans, you're right. I mean, we talked about it on yesterday's show, right? Like we were expecting a lot of goals, even though at one point it looked like, when the Golden Knights were up 2-0, it looked like maybe it was going to be more of a kind of lazier game, but it certainly wasn't once the Jets got going. And I mean, you just love to see Jansen Harkins get on the board. You love to see, I mean, we're going to go goal by goal, or at least we'll get into, most of the goals. And you love to see Christian Reichel, get his first NHL goal. Dave M has been talking about him, for quite a while now. And I thought that line with Adam Lowry and Andrew Kopp was really solid. You saw Kopp out there, guys, in overtime. He had a couple shots on net. He was skating really well. Obviously, Connor Dubois, I mean, that they have, great chemistry together. So I thought that line was really effective. And then obviously, Paul Stastny, the guy that seems to always get overlooked, just a beautiful tip, which at the time put the Jets ahead 3-2. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, guys, I mean, you don't like, giving up the lead there and the game going to overtime, but you make up for it just with a beautiful goal from Kyle Connor, who, as you mentioned, I mean, continues to lead the Jets in the goal scoring department. He's well on his way to a 30+ year. He'll probably, hit 40 goals at least by the time this is over. But yeah, just a good effort from the Jets, considering how that first period went, guys. Like the first period, it was all Vegas, and it looked like Michael Amadio was going to have, his best career game ever. He might have had his best career period, but I mean, the Golden Knights were all over them with, 20+ shots, but the game settled down. And those two goals in 20 seconds. We heard Dennis go bang, bang for the first time in 2022, and it was just beautiful. At the end of the day, guys, the Jets beat, one of the best teams, not only in the Western Conference, but one of the best teams in the league. Dave mentioned this on Twitter, like no Jack Eichel, no Max Pacioretty, no Mark Stone, no Alec Martinez. I mean, I could go on and on. No Robin Leonard, and the Vegas Golden Knights almost got 2 points tonight. So overall, all things considered, aside from that one bad period, it was a pretty good effort for the Jets here.
I would say it's so. Dave, you heard Dennis go bang, bang live and in person as he was calling the game at the arena in downtown Winnipeg. Were you there for the Moose? And we'll talk about the Moose game later on during the Manouk Moose Minute. But it was this is a game where, rarely are we as skilled as prognosticators as we were on yesterday's Illegal Curve Hockey Show. In what we said was that it was going to be a very tough start to the period for the Jets. The first period, the Jets were out of sorts, and that's exactly what we saw. And we also talked about how important of an opportunity this is for a guy like Jansen Harkins. And he was certainly noticeable for the Winnipeg Jets this afternoon. He didn't look, I would describe, as out of place on that line, with his opportunities, and he obviously got the Jets' first goal of the game. But this was almost to a T what we expected, especially that first period where the Winnipeg Jets just looked like a team that hasn't played hockey for 2 weeks.
Yeah, there's a couple things. Number one, it's interesting because if you go back to Brendan Dillon's media availability on Thursday after practice, he said that the first period is probably going to be, quote, interesting. But he felt that the Jets by the second and third periods would be better and would have their legs going. I mean, you got to remember, Vegas has played a couple of games since the Christmas break, and the Jets obviously haven't played in 2 weeks, and it showed in that first period. And sometimes that's what occurs, and that's what transpires. And so you take it with a grain of salt. And it's funny because after our show ended yesterday, I jumped on the media availability with the Jets, and I asked Dave Lowry about Jansen Harkins and about the opportunity. And he just said, look, it's because Vesalainen had to deal with the COVID situation. It's an opportunity for Jansen Harkins to help try and create for his line mates. And this is his chance. This is his shot. We talked about it, as you said, Drew, on the show. And I think with this opportunity, I mean, he's a guy who's just going to keep getting better and better. And I like I said, I could be wrong. I just think if you give him an audition, if you give him a real shot to play there, not one game, not 2 games, let him develop some chemistry with Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois. See what you have in that 2015 second rounder. If he ends up back on the fourth line, well, then you'll have a very good fourth liner, but maybe you've got a little more in Jansen Harkins. So I like that they were able to, get him into that spot and get him going. And, look, it wasn't the start you expected. And like I of course had dual responsibility. So I was trying, and it was
heavy as the head that wears the crown, Mr. Minuk.
Well, it was funny though, because it was just the weirdest situation because I mean, at the end of the game, I'm doing media availability on Zoom with Moose head coach Mark Morrison. I'm listening to Dennis, who's probably like 15 feet to my right, and one level above me in the press box. He's in the upper gondola. We're in the lower gondola. And so I can hear Dennis clearly because at this point, the Zambonis are done and it's quiet. And then I'm watching the game on TSN on the TV in front of me. And then Dennis says goal on the Cop goal. And I'm like, what is he talking about? I've got it right in front. And I'm trying to pay attention to what Mark Morrison is saying. And then, of course, I see Cop scored. So
Drew, I feel like Dave is like Jack Nicholson in The Shining, like walking through that lodge, like trying to figure out where the sounds are coming from and who's up there and everything like that. But yeah, I noticed that too on the broadcast, Dave. It's always weird, but because of COVID,
no Moose and no Morrison make Dave a dull boy.
Yeah, no red rum, thankfully, as well, right, guys? But I wanted to say one thing though to Dave's point about Jansen Harkins, and anybody who's kind of listened to the show knows we're big fans of Harkins, even though I guess we're not supposed to be fans. But if you think about it, right, guys, like Wheeler, he's going to be out for a little while. We don't know exactly how long, but he's certainly not going to play versus the Coyotes. He's not going to play against the Avalanche, and most likely won't play against the Red Wings in the fourth game of that, if you want to call it, 4-game road trip. So there's an opportunity here for Harkins, to play, significant minutes and games on that second line, right, Dave? Like, I don't think, we expect, there's no reason to expect Harkins to get bumped off of that second line, considering the way that he played. And it wasn't just the goal, that got the goal scoring going for the Jets in the second period, right? Like you saw him block a shot in the third period. Like, Harkins is a good hockey player. I don't think anybody is going to expect Harkins to, score 40 goals and 90 points or anything like that. But this is a guy that we talked about, on yesterday's show that, wasn't really able to get into the lineup and crack the fourth line last year. So here he is on the second line. And, he's not obviously going to score a goal every night, but I thought that was fitting that he scored. And Reichel scores in only his second career NHL game. And obviously, guys, we got to mention Hellebuck. I know in the chat here, a lot of people are talking about Hellebuck. When that game was 2-0 Vegas, I mean, they had a lot of chances. He made 20 saves or something like that in the first period. So in a game in which he lets in 4 goals, it's kind of hard sometimes to say he had a strong game, but he was really good with 35 plus saves.
He certainly made some key saves when they needed him to. And that's, look, that Vegas Golden Knights team, this was an important win for the Jets for a couple of reasons. Obviously, you want to start 2022 off on the right foot. You've been off for 2 weeks. You want to feel good about yourself there. It's an important game for the standings. And we talked about where they are in the standings and the reality of the situation. And yes, the Jets are not at full strength, but there's no question that Vegas is more banged up and without more people than the Jets are, with all due respect to, the absence of Blake Wheeler, and I guess to a much lesser extent of Evgeny Svechnikov. When you rattled off the names that are missing from the Vegas Golden Knights lineup, this is a game the Jets had to have, especially when they were up 4-2. there was a lot good in the Winnipeg Jets game, particularly in the second period when they came back with those 2 goals. Got a little sloppy there towards the end of the second as they were sort of holding on for a little bit of dear life and hoping and praying for the final buzzer of the second period to ring. And then you go up 4-2. On the nice power play goal and the goals that the Jets scored today for the most part were not flashy goals. Especially the third and the fourth goals, they were not flashy. They were, Paul Stastny with just a fantastic tip off of that Josh Morrissey shot, which was going so wide, and the skill set necessary to make that tip is through the roof. And then the power play goal is you got Dubois and Kopp both right in front of Laurent Brossoit. And what was it? It was, bodies in front. What's the mantra been for the last couple of weeks? Bodies in front. And the Jets got rewarded for those bodies in front. They don't love that they gave up the 2 goals and the goal with 8 seconds to go to send it to overtime. But they didn't hang their heads. They didn't sulk that it got to overtime. They were able to, look, Kyle Connor. That's a goal scorer's goal. Yeah, most of your goals need to come from the dirty areas. But if you have scorers like Kyle Connor, you can light a goalie up from a little bit further away every now and then.
Yeah, and to Grace's point there, you've got the comment up. Kind of weird that we're 30 or so games into the season.
Yeah,
and Vegas is yet to lose, right? Drew mentioned that on yesterday morning's show. So yeah, that's one of those things that the Jets can, maybe put on the bulletin board that they were the first team to beat Vegas. But this Vegas team is very good, right? Like even without those players, right? Like we talked about it, Chandler Stevenson having a career year, Riley Smith, Jonathan Marchessault, so William Karlsson. That line is telling Dave, as we were watching the third period here, because Dave made it back for the third period, like that line is still an elite line in the NHL. So, this team is not going anywhere. I think we all expect them to win the division. And you're right, Drew. You tie the game up and then, the second period, Vegas had a bit of a push there and the Jets, let them, I think, have too many scoring chances. But then, the response, just go to the net. How many times are we going to talk about the net drive, right? And on Andrew Kopp's goal, the 4-2 goal, that's Alex Pietrangelo, in front of the net there. And I thought Pietrangelo was just a little too, loose. Like Kopp out battled him for the puck. That was just one of those goals where you can say like blood, sweat, and tears. That's the reason why, that goal was scored. And I mentioned that earlier. I thought Kopp was solid all night. But you just take this win. And sometimes, as we mentioned before, you're not going to get the prettiest goals. So I think the Jets are going to be very happy the fact they're leaving with 2 points, even though I think they would prefer if Vegas didn't get the 1 point.
Well, what did we talk about on yesterday's show, Dave? We talked about, the Vegas and the Colorado games are a little bit of measuring stick games for this Winnipeg Jets team. With all due respect to Arizona on Tuesday, that should be in emphasis. And we know the Jets have had trouble with Arizona so far this year. That should be the easier of the games. If the Jets can beat Vegas, the Jets can beat Colorado, then they are feeling even better about themselves before, again, they're going to have probably a week off between, the Colorado game on Thursday and the Detroit game the following Thursday. Of course, the schedule, who knows, it's definitely up in flux. But, that's why it's so important for the Jets to get off on a good note for this road trip. And it really is uncanny a little bit, Dave, how the first period played out exactly like everyone thought it was going to. Yeah. A rusty Winnipeg Jets team didn't look very good, but how quickly in the second period they were able to get right back into the game. 2 goals from unlikely goal scorers. Jansen, Harkins, we mentioned, nice individual effort to get into the slot. I don't know that it was the best goal I've ever seen. I think Laurent Brossoit probably wants it back, but it wasn't horrendous, and Harkins gets full credit for it. And then Christian Reichel. How much more can you say about him? How great must that feeling be to see Reichel get his first NHL goal? And I do have to say that I enjoyed the photo from Robert Reichel, which was apparently done in black and white because they didn't have color photos back in 1990, according to the broadcast, the photo they showed on the broadcast.
Well, and one thing folks may not know unless they were following me on Twitter, but when Reichel scored, which was in the third period of the Moose game, they announced it happened to be it came just in a break in action. I think the Moose were in a commercial break holding a 2-1 lead over the Iowa Wild. And during the play, they flashed it up on the scoreboard. So they showed Christian Reichel's first goal. Evan Duncan, who's the in-house announcer, announced the goal. And you could just see the looks of smiles and genuineness of how happy guys where I saw Jeff Malott with a big smile across his face, and all the Moose players were really excited, and you could see how happy they were for a guy like Christian Reichel to do what he's done, which is, I mean, and it's funny because I don't know why some people on Twitter, I said, listen, like I personally think that Reichel's a good fit with Andrew Kopp and Adam Lowry. I like him. People want to see Cole Perfetti. I'm like, but I see Reichel's a better fit in that regard, and the way that line is constructed to fit with those two guys. So I really liked the opportunity because they've used Lowry. Dave Lowry has used Adam Lowry and Christian Reichel for the last 7 practices. Obviously, Kopp was in Michigan dealing with the COVID situation, but he used Lowry and Reichel. So I really didn't think he was going to break them up. And I thought, here's an opportunity to have a guy he's hard, he's a decent skater, he has an okay shot. Like, you can give him some leash, and he's responsible defensively. And so, to me, he was a guy I really like if you gave him that opportunity on that third line. And he proved that, again, just a remarkable story, guys. Like, undrafted, came to the Jets, development camps year after year, worked his butt off, I think, with Red Deer, and then has worked his butt off for 4 seasons with the Manitoba Moose. And because of opportunity, because of situations, he's the guy who gets the recall. And he's showing that it doesn't matter if you get drafted in the 1st round, the 7th round, or you went undrafted. If you work hard consistently, which is what he does, and which is what Jansen Harkins does. And again, a lot of people don't see it because they don't watch the Moose, or they're not there, like they don't have the not inside access, but when we're down in the back in the day, when we'd be down in the arena and I'd watch everybody else finish, their warm up, and Jansen Harkins is still working and doing stretching and just keeping focused. You could just see the determination in these guys. So I'm not surprised that Jansen Harkins is having success. And I'm not surprised that Christian Reichel is having success. I think that, like I said, I think a lot of people, if you were focused on it, wouldn't be surprised, but they're phenomenal stories. And especially with Reichel, because Harkins is a 2nd-round pick. So there's a little bit more fanfare with him, despite the fact that his path was anything but linear. Mm-hmm. A guy like Reichel just getting that reward, and we don't know how long it's going to last, but you hope for him, and he hopes for himself that it'll keep on rolling. But you just have to, like I said, as he's right, we're not fans, but you take a step back and say, what a cool accomplishment for a guy who just continued to do all the right things and have that faith in himself, eventually earn an NHL contract with the Jets after having AHL deals with the Moose, and now he's a winger for the Winnipeg Jets on the 3rd line.
And Dave, I've got his stat line here, and obviously we talked about the goal, a couple shots on net, block shot, he had a hit, 3 takeaways, but to me, probably the most important, 11 and a half minutes of ice time. And obviously, he's up in the lineup, right? But he only had 4 minutes, I believe, or 4.5 minutes. I don't know if you guys remember. I'd have to go back.
Somewhere around
in that range. He didn't play much in his first game, right? So 11 and a half minutes of ice time, but 3 takeaways. Like, this is a guy that is more than just kind of a fringe, guy that, is going to get a couple of games in the NHL. I think he's a guy that, you could see, and he's not old, right? Like, it's not like you're talking about a 30-year-old player. So Dave's right. I mean, for a guy that wasn't drafted, I mean, he's really earned his spot in the lineup.
Well, what you're seeing, I think, is every team around the league right now is depleted, be it normal course of the season injuries, be it, obviously the COVID absences are significant, and every team, there's opportunities probably on every roster for these young guys who may not necessarily have the pedigree of a tremendous prospect or anything like that to step in and play a role. And Christian Reichel, we thought maybe that he wasn't necessarily going to be in the lineup after practice yesterday when Evgeny Svechnikov was back skating and was back healthy and wearing a contact jersey. They elected to hold Svechnikov out for another game. Reichel gets into the lineup because for most people he was the guy who was likely to come out, and instead he gets the Jets. He gets the tying goal for the Jets, which obviously proves to be a huge goal in the course of this game. So this is just, you're rewarding a guy, and I think when a guy like that gets rewarded, it resonates all throughout the dressing room, and I think it resonates all throughout the organization, because there's certainly no shortage of guys, like you mentioned, Dave, when you tweeted out that video, no shortage of guys at the AHL level who look at the career path of a guy like Christian Reichel and say, that could be me there, but the grace of God, I could do the same thing, just like a Jansen Harkins. I mean, look, the first 2 goals of tonight's game, Jansen Harkins, obviously he was a higher draft pick, and whereas Reichel wasn't drafted at all. And then Reichel. I mean, so everybody at the AHL level certainly will use that as a boost to their confidence going forward. Just you never know when it's the sun is gonna shine on your special day.
Well, just to quickly interject,
Yeah.
like sum that up, I asked Mark Morrison about that because I said to him, I said like, it's funny because I used to say this about Jansen Harkins to Pascal Vincent all the time, just how it's such a good motivator for this team because there's a lot of guys on the Moose who can look at a Christian Reichel or look at a Jansen Harkins, say, like you said, Drew, why not me? That could be me, and their opportunity could be coming, right? So, David Gustafson goes down after the first period. He doesn't return. Well, that's going to mean an opportunity for CJC's, Cole Perfetti. We'll see who it is.
Svechnikov, of course.
Obviously, Svechnikov as well.
Yeah.
So, obviously Gustafson's the center, but you can always move Toninato over. But the point is, like I said to Mark Morrison, what a good teaching moment for you to have. And he agreed. He said it's absolutely something that we're going to be.
Does he ever disagree with you?
I don't know. I mean, we're very new in our relationship.
Your relationship is just in the beginning stages.
Yeah, we're in.
So there's no trouble in paradise, is what you're saying.
No, we're in the courting stages right now still.
That's
so we're trying not to disagree too much.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, he's welcome to disagree with me if he doesn't agree with a position I take. But I would, like I said, I just thought it's no great revelation, but it's just something that he can use as a coaching staff and point towards. And I think that. It's just, you can't just say, well, because you work, situations have to occur, right? And we know this. If there's no injury, Blake Wheeler doesn't get injured. Jansen Harkins doesn't get a chance on the second line. If a variety of other, Evgeny Svechnikov doesn't get injured, Christian Reichel maybe doesn't get in. So it's always, that small window for a lot of these guys, especially a guy like Reichel. It's a small window, but he's opened eyes, and that's all you can ask to do. And now if they get healthy and they choose to not keep him in the lineup, well, at least now he is the guy that they're thinking about when they need to make a recall. Okay, well, we're going to get Christian Reichel back in the lineup. I'm not saying he's not going to stay. I'm just saying he's giving them an opportunity. I don't see why he would come out, actually, to be honest with you. I think he's going to stick with that line.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying he's giving them that option.
And guys, this isn't just about right now, right? Like when you talk about these types of players, right? Like Jansen Harkins, Christian Reichel, similar age. I mean, these guys are also playing for, their careers next year and the year after, right? And we don't know what's going to happen with like an Andrew Kopp, for example. Like I think there's a chance that Kopp, re-signs in Winnipeg, but we know, sorry, I should have called him Andrew Cha-Ching, but we know that he's going to go up in salary, right? Like we know Pierre-Luc Dubois is going to go up in salary. Paul Stastny, who we talked about earlier, just a beautiful, tip in the second period. We're not sure if he's going to be back, right? Like the salary cap, what is it going to go up? Maybe $1 million or $2 million next year. Like, so what I'm saying is there's an opportunity for Reichel and Harkins to not only play well this year, but to also kind of set the foundation for next year, right, Dave? So again, I'm not saying Reichel is going to play 82 games with the Jets next year, but all I'm saying is that, this has been, a very good showcase for him, to prove that he's more than just an AHL player.
Well, I thought that this victory for the Jets is, especially important because I didn't think that some of their best players were necessarily tremendous in tonight's game. I didn't think Mark Scheifele was anything to write home about tonight. I mean, we saw another lapse in defensive coverage on the first goal by the Golden Knights, where he's right next to Amadio and he doesn't tie up the stick, and that's just, again, I mean, a broken record when it comes to Mark Scheifele and some of his defensive shortcomings. Just that it's that attention to detail. You think you got a guy, but you don't actually have him tied up, and the puck, yes, it's a bit of a fluky rebound and a fluky ricochet, but you have to be prepared for those sort of situations. I didn't think Scheifele was much to write home about tonight. Ehlers had that great opportunity in the third period that Laurent Brossoit came across and made a great save on. But other than that, I didn't think Ehlers was fantastic tonight. I mean, Stastny obviously had the great tip in off of the Josh Morrissey goal, so I can't quibble with his game very much. But it was the depth scoring for the Winnipeg Jets tonight that made a big difference, and I think that's really important because we know that that's always when you're. Not that the Jets are necessarily top heavy when they're at full strength, but they, so often rely on those, on the Connors and the Dubois and the Scheifeles and the Ehlers. And when Scheifele and Ehlers weren't great, other guys were able to pick up the slack in today's game. And I thought that was certainly important for the Winnipeg Jets. I would have liked to see more from Scheifele and Ehlers today, to be perfectly blunt. I didn't think after a 2-week layoff that either of them really brought a lot to the table, and I was expecting more out of their games. than we saw for the most part.
Yeah, sure. I mean, and like you said, Drew, I mean, those are players that you're always expecting to be on the score sheet, right? Like it's similar to like McKinnon and Rantanen in Colorado. Scheifele and Ehlers, like point of game players, right? More so Scheifele, but Ehlers is there this year, and we expect him to be for many years to come, right? So yeah, I wouldn't say that those were, A efforts from those guys. Scheifele, had some shots, had some looks on the power play. I mean, we know he's always going to be out there in the first power play unit. But just going back to the end result and kind of looking at this game at the macro level, guys, like I think it's huge that they got the extra point in overtime. Not just because Vegas hasn't lost in the shootout or overtime.
Vegas hasn't Vegas hasn't had a game to go past regulation,
right? Which is even more obscure, right?
Yeah,
exactly. So I mean, I think it's because of the fact that they want the points and the fact that I think they got rewarded for how well they played, as Drew mentioned, second period kind of on, even though it wasn't. Let's be honest, it wasn't perfect. Like Dylan DeMello. I mean, you guys know, what I think of him. He's a very solid defensive defenseman, but obviously, he's just beat by Matthias Janmark, who was very good, throughout the game. He's really good with Dallas. Has always been, in my opinion, one of those underrated players. So it wasn't perfect, but as Drew mentioned earlier, we expected this to be an imperfect game. Like we expected it to be a little bit sloppy. So at the end of the day, guys, really, I mean, even though, it's not something that I think coaches want to hear, like you get the 2 points here. And it wasn't a clean 2 points. Yeah, 8 seconds. That could have been killer if you lost the extra point here. But when you're battling with teams like LA and even Vancouver, I mean they won again last night. So you need every single point you can get. And we know they've got an easier game coming up against Arizona. But I just thought the way they finished that game, considering that it's pretty heartbreaking to give up that late goal. So I just wanted to get that in there. I think
especially after Stastny sort of has that golden opportunity to ice it and hits the side of the net. And I mean, I
thought that went in, by the way, watching that live, but I guess it didn't.
You see the twine move, and you thought, okay, he hit the twine. I mean, it's surprising when Paul Stastny, I'm going to use the term screws up, but that's probably too harsh for the term. Of course, you expected him to hit the net there because he's so smart, and so he usually he rarely makes a mistake. So if you want to quantify that as a mistake, and it's just a little bit fitting, where the Winnipeg Jets are probably psyche wise, and where they are, not that they're fragile, but I guess it comes as no surprise that Vegas is then able to go down the other end of the ice, Dave, and pop that in there with 8 seconds to go to send it to overtime. But it was really important that the Jets got the win in OT, and sure, you'd rather it be in regulation, but it's not like you're really battling with Vegas per se for a playoff spot, because Vegas is at the top of the Pacific Division.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it and we said how critical this game was. I mean, all 3 games are extremely important for the Winnipeg Jets, and they can't afford to take Arizona lightly because, as you just touched on, the teams around them are winning and the teams ahead of them are winning. So you can only win. And this, like I said, it's not going to necessarily be a season-defining 3-game road trip. It's 3 games isn't in an 82-game schedule isn't sufficient, but I really do think it's going to be extremely important for the Jets to go into Colorado, 4 points in the bank. And you don't look ahead, but I'm just saying, and then have that sort of build that momentum, because we talked about it. You don't have the luxury of regulation losses really right now because of the position you put yourself in. So what do you need to do? You need to start building some momentum, and they've done it, and it wasn't perfect. But at the end of the day, guys, I mean, look, people can lament the fact that Jets didn't play a perfect game. They had a 2-week break.
Vegas didn't play a perfect game either.
No, and look, Vegas was missing guys, but Vegas has played games recently, right? I think Vegas played 2 games last week. So in the last week, I should say. So the fact is, you have a team that is ready to go and playing versus a team that's been practicing for 2 weeks. And you can say, well, that's an excuse, but it's the reality. And the reality is when one team is ready to go, and we saw it in the first period, and like Brendan Dillon predicted it on Thursday, right? He said this first period is not going to look pretty. But the second and third should be a lot better for us. So absolutely critical 2 points. I mean, obviously you could try and find the bright spot if you only salvage a single out of that one. But for the Jets to fight back after you're down 2-0 to score 4 unanswered, even though you gave up 2 unanswered. And one of the things I heard as I was driving from Canada Life home was that, I was listening to the Jamie Thomas and Paul Edmonds on the broadcast, and Jamie said that Vegas is the team in the NHL that's come back the most from multi-goal deficits. So, I mean, you knew that this is a Vegas team that has it in them to do that. So at the end of the day, you walked out with 2 points. You're feeling good about yourself and you're feeling good about your team, and you're going to be able to go to Arizona, stay warm, stay away from the minus 50. I even parked indoors today just because I needed to wash my car. So I washed my car at Portage Place, and
that's ballsy. Washing your car when it's minus 40.
Well, I was
inside indoors. That's veteran move right there. Well done, Dave. That's the kind. That's a Paul Stasny-esque veteran expertise on display.
But I'm talking about the drive to get underground, even. Like just leaving the car wash, like that's risky.
No, I think
so Ezzy, just so you know, because you're obviously
he's out of touch, Dave.
The car wash is underground.
Is in the underground parking lot.
Oh, yes, my mind's blown.
I know.
I thought you went to like Petro Canada or something. I don't know.
Come on,
sorry, guys. I'm not like up on the car wash situation like you guys.
Well, if you live in Winnipeg,
Petro Canada on Grant and do it like everybody else and pay for the basic wash.
Well,
I don't have these special fancy underground washes.
Well, as you stick with us, we'll keep teaching you about the ways of the world, especially here in frigid Winnipeg. Not frigid for the Winnipeg Jets, though, on the scoreboard. 5-4 victors over the Vegas Golden Knights to improve to 15-11-5 on the season. Next in action on Tuesday night against the Arizona Coyotes. Let's head to break. When we come back, more of the post-game show, the Manuk Moose Minute, as he's going to give away a Tough Duck Toque for the hardest hitting comment. Stay with us. It's the Illegal Curve post-game show. We're live on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms.
Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, Jon Stewart, Dennis Miller, Brad Garrett, the biggest acts and all the up-and-comers. They've all made their mark at Rumors Comedy Club, North America's longest-running independent comedy club. Rumors has kept Winnipeg laughing for over 25 years. When was the last time you laughed out loud? Make it a great night out with friends or book your office or birthday party, even a fundraising event at Rumors. Get all the details and dates on upcoming shows at rumorscomedyclub.com.
He winds up. Oh, looks like Ezzy took that one right in the choppers.
A blistering fast puck hurts like HE double hockey sticks. That's why I let the pros at Linden Market Dental Center turn my yow into
wow.
Get your brilliant smile back with state-of-the-art restorative and cosmetic dentistry from real pros.
And remember, always wear a mouth guard.
Now that's solid on ice advice. Learn more at lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Boys, finding parking on game day shouldn't take longer than the Manuk Minute.
It shouldn't take longer than 1 minute?
Yeah, less than a minute? I spend at least 20 driving around to find street parking, or if I'm in a rush to the game, I'll shovel out 20 at a parkade.
You're both doing it wrong. There's this app called Grid Park. It lets you find and pre-book your parking spot on game days, and you can reserve your spot up to 1 month in advance. And guess how much you'll pay?
Tell me, Dave. You know I love a deal.
Ezzy, $5.
Come on, $5?
Yeah, and it's just 2 blocks from the arena.
The Grid Park app?
Yep, spelled GRYD Park. And you know what else?
There's more?
Our listeners get their first park free with the code FIRSTPARK.
Wow, so they just download the Grid Park app and pre-book their next game day spot for free?
Yeah, you got it, Ez. Promo code FIRSTPARK, only on the Grid Park app.
Hi, it's Drew from Illegal Curve here. Selling your home can be stressful, but it wasn't for me. Thanks to my friends at Zappia Group Realty, they made the process so easy. My home sold within 48 hours and with multiple offers. Zappia Group Realty took care of everything with their exquisite customer service and attention to detail. If you want to sell your home for more in less time, get started by talking to Frank and Mauro Zappia of Zappia Group Realty. Online at zappiagroup.com.
Whether it's
it's watching the game with friends, pizza night with the family, or date night for two, this holiday season, give the gift of special occasions. Get a free $10 promo card when you buy a $50 gift card from Boston Pizza. Because nobody regifts pizza.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the illegal curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. Alrighty, it's Sunday evening. Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg with you. Welcome to so many of you. Happy New Year. If we haven't said Happy New Year already, our apologies. Happy New Year. There was an Illegal Curve hockey show yesterday. So if you haven't had an opportunity to watch that or download that, be sure to do that. It's on our YouTube page. It's on all of our podcast feeds. You know where to find it. That way you don't miss an episode of the Illegal Curve hockey show.
It's good
or
to be
the
back,
Illegal Curve.
I gotta say.
Yeah, a couple weeks off. You know, it does give you a little bit of a
How
boost
much time
of
do you really
momentum.
need off, though? Like, I get bored after a couple days off.
Yeah, well, I mean, I need at least 2 weeks off from you, so I feel a lot better. And now that, I've had that 2 weeks, I can rekindle our friendship again. So I feel good about that. We remind everybody, what we ask of you. Smash the like button. Subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. Subscribe to our podcast. Get alerted each and every time we go live. We'll go live next on Tuesday night following the Jets and the Coyotes right around 10:45 p.m. Central Time on Tuesday with the 8 o'clock start there in Arizona. So be sure to join us. Will you be at
Sheldon
here.
and Tannis's, though? That's the real question.
No, I won't. I'll be back in the basement. I'll be back in my house doing the post-game show from my usual abode. I might make some additions to the background. I got some new stuff. I'll see if I'm able to hang it up in time for Tuesday to fancy it up a little bit, but we'll see if that happens in time or
Drew,
not.
when you're back in tuxedo, is there like a big is there a parade or like a big formal announcement like Drew's coming back to tuxedo?
No, there's not at all. In fact, it's just
there should be.
There really isn't any fanfare whatsoever. There is a lot of fanfare, though, for the Manouk Moose Minute. The Moose were in action earlier this afternoon. They were victors. Dave M. Put on the antlers and take it away.
Oh, the antlers are out of reach right now. They're all the way back there, but I would happily take it away and do a Manouk Moose Minutes because the Moose were back in action taking on the Iowa Wild, who are in their division, of course. And this is the first time they've been in action. Forget about a 2-week break. They wish they had a 2-week break. They have been off since December 17th. Not only have they been off, but they've been losing their players like nobody's business. Obviously, CJ Cease, Cole Perfetti, David Gustafson, Christian Reichel, all up with the Winnipeg Jets. They lost Arvid Holm, who was their almost like a co-goaltender with Mikkel Bird. I don't really want to call him the backup. He's been very good, 5-2-1. He's on the taxi squad as some insurance for the Jets who are on the road. So the Moose were ready to get going again. They've been practicing quite a bit, and they were taking on. They had, of course, the 2 games against Abbotsford postponed because Abbotsford had a COVID situation, which we talked about yesterday. So these are the first 2 games for the Manitoba Moose. They play today, and they'll play again on Tuesday in a rematch with the Wild. It started off oddly. I got to the arena, as like I said, after my aforementioned car wash.
Yeah.
And got there nice and early, and just weird being in the building with nobody there. I mean, it's, the Moose obviously don't have the same crowds as the Winnipeg Jets, but what they lack in size, they make up for in energy because it's generally a lot of kids. So the crowds are always enthusiastic and they bring a lot of energy, and no fans. Was just weird to walk into that building. And so anyway, so I got there watching warm up and expecting Mikkel Burden to be the starter. They had, of course, DeRosier from
Newfoundland.
Trois-Rivières.
Sorry.
I
thought you tweeted Newfoundland.
What?
I thought you tweeted that he played for the Growlers.
Yes, I made a mistake, which I deleted that tweet. That's why I deleted the tweet, because it was a mistake. Well, because Evan Cormier was from the Newfoundland Growlers, which is who they signed at the same time as they called him up. Problem was he was injured, and Mikkel Burden, which I didn't know because I was trying to figure out why he didn't lead them out for the skate, which I found out after when I did some digging, had been in COVID protocol. He's now out of COVID protocol, but he wasn't able to get going, wasn't able to play today. So instead, it's 2016 fourth rounder, Evan Cormier making the start for. Now he's played
Devil's
37.
draft pick.
Yeah, he's a Devil's draft pick. He's played 37 games in the AHL already. This was his first of the year. He was 10-2-1 with Newfoundland in the ECHL. So it's not as if he's a green behind.
It's not a flash in the pan.
Yeah, he's been around. He's played the pro game for a while now. But he still, I mean, is that rather shocking to see what, him in the net, because I just wasn't expecting. I thought it was going to be Burden. And if that wasn't enough, well, all of a sudden, then I see Jason Kasdorf, the Jets draft pick from back in the day, of course, traded
2011.
2011, I think 6th rounder or 7th rounder, traded to the Buffalo Sabres as part of the Evander Kane deal. And then he retired about 3 or 4 years ago.
He hasn't. I looked it up on HockeyDB. He hasn't played professionally since 2018, I believe. I saw he played like 3 games for a team in the 2nd division of the German league. 3 years ago. So all of a sudden, Dave's rattling off Jason Kasdorf as the backup goalie for the Moose. And I'm like, what era is it? What year is this?
Well, he was
up is down.
I remember in 2011 in St. Paul, Remus and I were talking to his family, right? Because he's obviously from Manitoba.
Yeah.
And so when I went to you, Drew, when Dave tweeted that out, I was like, who does Kasdorf play for now? Like I wasn't sure if he was even in the AHL, but obviously, the Moose were down to their 4th or 5th goalie there, right? So it's pretty awesome for him just to strap on the pads for the Moose again.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Drew.
I was going to say, it would have been, usually in that situation, something happens to Cormier, and all of a sudden Jason Kasdorf is in net for the Moose, playing in an AHL game for the first time in more than half a decade.
Hey, it would have been a good story. It would have been a real good story.
Yeah.
Now the Moose, of course. So the only thing really that they had consistent from the last game was, again, the defense generally was kind of stayed the same, and they had a lot of the Jets prospects, which is of course a good thing because Heinola, Chisholm, Gavanke, Kovacevic, and Sandberg were all playing. So the only one who wasn't was Simon Lundmark, the 2019 2nd rounder. He was a scratch today. They had Jimmy Olney there. And so the Moose got off to a great start. Declan Chisholm scored his 6th goal of the season. He only had 2 last year for the Moose. He's a really gifted skater, the 2018 5th rounder for Winnipeg. Really good skater, has a good shot. So he scored to open the scoring, I think, about a minute and a half in to the game, which is kind of the start you want if you're the Winnipeg Jets. The Manitoba Moose. It's the Moose minute, not the Jets minute. And so things looked like they were getting off to a good start, which was impressive because Iowa played twice already in the last week. They played Colorado, and they split that series. So you had an Iowa team, similar to what the Jets experienced with Vegas having played. You have an Iowa team that had just recently played a couple of games and were ready to go, and had a lot of their good players in terms of Matt Boldy. They had Marco Rossi, a bunch of other guys. So it was a good start for the Moose. They kept it rolling. It was an even period. Then they got Todd Burgess scored on a beautiful pass from Mike Yesman in the 2nd to make it 2-0 for the Moose. Then the Moose got into a bit of penalty trouble, and they've got they had the 2nd best PK in the AHL coming into the game, but they gave up a 5-on-3 opportunity, and Matt Boldy scored a nice one to make it 2-1. And then, like I said, and if people are just joining the chat, one of the nicest moments of the game for sure was when when Evan Duncan announced Christian Reichel scoring the goal. And the Moose actually, I'll tweet it out. The Moose tweeted out when the video of the reaction from all the players, but you can see what we're talking about in terms of how positive, how happy everybody was for Reichel to score his first goal. And it's kind of, like I said, it's kind of an unusual situation being there in the arena, these games coinciding. But anyways, so that's it. And then they held on for the win. And like I said, it was kind of a good momentum starter for the Moose. They're sitting comfortably in 2nd. They're well behind Chicago, I think, who has, a 9-point lead for first. But it's good for the
Wolves, like 24-1 or something.
Yeah,
I think last time I checked.
I know. And if you remember, before the Moose season was paused, they beat the Moose very late in that game, which was a game the Moose had, and then blew it. So it's one of those situations where, this Moose team just keeps on plugging away, and they've got different guys who step up and different role players. And while they've lost a lot of the guys up front, the Gustafsons, the Vesalainens, the Reichels, now the Ceases, they've still got some talent up front, and they've got some good AHL players. And the defensive prospects continue to look real good. So that's one thing, if you're a Jets fan, you're excited about, is that these young kids who are playing D are just continuing to look better and better. Dylan Sandberg, by the way, made probably the save of the year. I tweeted that one out. That was on the in the 3rd period with the time winding up, about 4 minutes to go. The net Cormier was caught on the right post, and the puck skirted out to the left side of the net, and Sandberg, kind of desperation, put his stick across and made the stop. So, a lot of these guys are developing well, and I think that's, again, a testament to what this staff is doing with the young Jets draft picks.
Well said, Dave M. There's your Manuk Moose Minute. The Moose victors today and the Winnipeg Jets victors today as well in Vegas. Before we wrap up tonight's program, Ezzy, hardest hitting comment. Who you giving it to?
Yeah, I'm going to give it to Albane Bale. Hopefully I'm saying that right. He's had some really good comments. The one that I picked out was from back at 6:01 when we were talking about Christian Reichel, who obviously got the game's it was the Jets' second goal. Reichel is a power forward with a right shot. No need to put a rookie on his offside. Perfect. And then he was talking about how he thinks Reichel is going to stay in the lineup for the foreseeable future. So I like that comment. Albane had some really good comments earlier as well. So just send me an email, ezra@illegalcurve.com. You got to send me your mailing address because Tough Duck will ship out your toque directly. So ezra@illegalcurve.com, or if you prefer, send me a DM on Twitter with your mailing address, and then Tough Duck will send you out a toque. And as everybody in Manitoba knows right now, you can probably use at least 5 toques with the way the weather is.
You can absolutely do that. Big thank you to our friends at Tough Duck. They're the sponsor of tonight's hardest hitting comment. Congratulations to Albane Bale for being victorious in that illustrious contest that we run after each and every Winnipeg Jets game. The next Illegal Curve post-game show will come to you on Tuesday night following the Jets and the Coyotes. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to the podcast, give us a like and a thumbs up on the YouTube channel as well. We always appreciate the feedback, the comments, and the interaction with everybody that joins us after each and every Winnipeg Jets game. And again, on Saturday mornings for the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. That's it for this Sunday evening. The Jets victors 5-4. The Moose victors as well. A double victory for the Winnipeg hockey teams in today's action. Always good to see that occurring. If you want more post-game coverage, Kenny and Rennie, they're going to get started in about 10 minutes time, so you can hang out and wait till then for them to begin on their YouTube channel.
Good to see Weber off the IR, by the way.
That's exactly right. He needs to always want to send him our best, as he's like so many others fighting COVID right now. So good to see Weber feeling good enough to do the post-game show. For Dave Manuk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Until Tuesday night at around 10:45 p.m., we wish you good night and good luck, and thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.